Injuries are on the rise in youth sports. Studies have shown that between 15 to 28% of youth baseball, basketball, soccer, and football players are injured each year, and in some states, the number of knee surgeries alone performed on children aged 3 to 20 has increased by 100% over the past 15 years alone. The reason most often given by medical experts for this rise in injuries in youth sports is that children are overtraining, and that is they're playing too much sports in general or they're playing one sport too often. The thinking goes like this. 1. Children today practice and play their sport a lot. 2. Injuries in youth sports are on the rise, and therefore 3. The rise in injuries has occurred because children practice and play their sport too much. In other words, they're overtraining. But what if the cause of increased injuries in youth sports is not because athletes are overtraining, but rather undertraining? Could it be that a lack of fitness, preparedness, and proper periodization of training load is really to blame for the rise in injuries in youth sports? That's what we'll be discussing today on the Soccer Fitness video blog. Hello, I'm Richard Bucciarelli. Early sports specialization is definitely a problem for youth athletes, as many studies have demonstrated a direct link between year-round participation in one sport and a higher incidence of injuries as compared to participation in multiple sports. What's interesting though is that over the past 20 years, during the exact same time period, overall rates of inactivity and obesity in children have also significantly increased. So today's children on average are far less active and more overweight than they used to be, yet at the same time they're specializing in one sport much earlier and playing much more of that specialized sport than they ever did before. In response to growing concerns over increased injury rates, many sports organizations have placed restrictions on the amount of physical activity that youth athletes can participate in. So essentially, the solution that's been proposed for youth athletes who are experiencing increased injury rates is to have them play less sports in order to reduce the risk of injury. So while early sports specialization is a problem, it might be possible that young athletes aren't really overtraining at all, and in fact, they may be undertraining. There is reason to believe that undertraining has led athletes to become out of shape and unprepared for the demands of the sport they're participating in, and this leads to increased rates of injury. To put this into perspective, over the past 15 years, I've probably conducted more fitness assessments on youth soccer players than anyone else in Canada. And from the results that I've got, the fitness levels of youth soccer players in our country are just not good. On average, the fitness level of a competitive rep or academy player in Canada is nowhere near the standards of a professional high-performance youth soccer environment in other countries in Europe and South America. To give just one example, when I worked in Uruguay with the Academy of Canadian SC, which is a professional club in the second division, I found that boys in the under 14 to under 16 age categories had scores on the yo-yo intermittent recovery test, think of it as the best measure of a soccer player's fitness, that were between 20 to 30% higher than the average Canadian rep or competitive teams that I tested in the same age categories. So even though our youth players are not in good shape, we still expect them to compete, to play regular weekly competitions with the same volume, frequency, and intensity as professional youth players who are in much better physical condition and so much better prepared. So could it be that we need to rethink this whole concept of overtraining? Could it be that in Canada, youth athletes are in fact undertrained? That means underprepared for physical and physiological demands of sport competition, and it's this unpreparedness that's the actual cause of the higher injury rates we see in Canada? Think about it this way. In any youth sports team at any competitive level, the athletes who get injured less frequently and recover the fastest from injuries are always the ones who are the most aerobically fit. This is because injury risk is negatively correlated to aerobic fitness, while the ability to recover from injury is strongly correlated to it. Simply put, fit players get hurt less and recover faster from injuries than unfit players, and that's true at any level. Many recent studies support these facts, specifically that athletes with higher levels of aerobic fitness have a significantly lower risk of injury, recover better between bouts of high-intensity exercise, and perform better physically during periods of multiple high-intensity actions. So what this means is that if youth athletes can raise their aerobic fitness levels, they will be better prepared for the demands of sports competition, including soccer competition, and as a result, they'll get injured less frequently and they'll recover quicker from any injuries that they do incur. So what's the best way for youth athletes to improve their aerobic fitness? Well, that's simple. Through gradual incremental increases in training load, which apply just enough stress to an athlete's physiological systems to stimulate them to adapt and improve, but not so much that they overload the systems and cause them to break down. If this sounds familiar, it's probably because you've seen our previous video blogs all about this topic, and you can check them out here and in the video description below for all the information that you need to know about how to calculate training load, plan optimal training load, and monitor the results of training in order to achieve these gradual incremental increases that are needed to produce results and reduce injury risk. With a sound foundational understanding of the principles of periodization of training load, coaches and athletes can better prepare themselves for the demands of training and competition. And this is and always will be your best defense against undertraining. And best of all, you don't need to play any less of the sport you love in the process. So to summarize, don't listen to anybody who tells you that to reduce injury risk, you need to play less of your sport. Get yourself in good aerobic physical condition by making gradual incremental increases in your training intensity and training load, and soon you'll be able to play the sport you love all day, every day, without having to worry about getting injured and recovering as fast as possible when you do get hurt. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You can comment on any video and feel free to share it with anyone who you may think will find it interesting. That's it for the video blog this week. We'll see you next time, and until then, keep reaching your soccer fitness goals.